Look, the Chicago Bears just pulled off a really stunning move. This was one I wasn't expecting. I'm sure you weren't expecting either. But the move that I'm talking about is the signing of former Indianapolis Colts edge rusher Dayo Odeyingbo. We're looking at Chicago making their second big move of 2025 NFL free agency, and they agreed to terms today on a 3-year, $48 million contract with, once again, former Indianapolis Colts edge rusher Dayo Odeyingbo. Kind of thinking about, who is this guy? He's a former second-round pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, and he's going to be the choice to join forces with Montez Sweat and hopefully give us a pretty dynamic starting pass rush duo, even though Odeyingbo, he doesn't bring elite sack numbers to the table. So you're kind of wondering, Sean, why is this a good signing then? I'm going to tell you. Because less than 3 hours after the team finalized a deal to sign center Drew Dahlman, this negotiation was completed. It's a 3-year contract worth $48 million with $32 million guaranteed, and a really similar deal to Dahlman. And both of these deals are essentially like a 2-year contract deal. You're looking at all the money being front-loaded into the first 2 years. That's where the guaranteed money is going. And if either of these moves don't work out for some reason, the Bears can cut bait in year 3 and have next to no dead cap space incurred. So it's really win-win. Let's kind of get to him, who he's a player and why he's a good pick. And I think at 25 years old, he's young. He did only have 3 sacks last year, but if you look a little closer, he had 8 sacks in 2023. In the last 2 years, he had 17 quarterback hits each of the last 2 years. So that's pretty darn good. And the Bears need it because they had a complete void opposite Montez Sweat. Montez Sweat does have the pedigree, but so does another guy. We're looking at Khalil Mack possibly coming to the Chicago Bears. He has a big pedigree, right? But the guy's 34 years old, would have cost considerably more money, and he was coming off a 6-sack season with the Chargers, right? Yeah, the Chargers. And there was a lot of rumors going around that he was going to join the Bears because the social media team put out a sizzle reel yesterday, and it was predominantly Mac highlights. Everybody naturally jumped to the conclusion that, this means Khalil Mack is coming back to be a Chicago Bear. I chose not to run anything on it. It seemed a little silly. And I think this is proof that GM Ryan Poles is not in control of the Chicago Bears social media. He doesn't make these videos. So let's put that to rest. Mack ended up staying with the Chargers. But let me give you some takeaways of why I think this Dayo signing is really good. The first thing is that he's just not a flash in the pan. He's not going to be a rotational player. I think this guy's going to be a 3-down player in this Dennis Allen defense because Dennis Allen looks for prototypical size in his left end. And yes, I said left end because I think this is going to happen, that Dayo takes over left end and Montez Sweat is going to move over to the right side. I think it's going to work really well because that's how Dennis Allen likes his players to stack up. With a guy like Odeyingbo, he's 6'6", 280 pounds. That fits the prototype of what Dennis Allen likes in his left end. Plus-size defensive end, a guy that can stay on the field in absolutely any situation with the good size. And Dayo is actually really good against the run, so that is once again another plus. Let's hear what the Chicago Tribune's Brad Biggs has to say about this player. Odeyingbo, a second-round pick by Indy out of Vanderbilt in 2021. He was a really interesting name last week at the NFL Combine in Indy. He was being talked about a lot. He generated considerable intrigue, but teams had no idea where the market would go for him. With so many flush with salary cap space, the Bears are uncertain how high that number would get for Odeyingbo. But thankfully for the Bears, the number didn't get sky high. He was right in the pocket of what the Bears were willing to pay. And I think he might end up being a bargain at Hallis Hall. I mean, he's going to have to produce to make the juice worth the squeeze, right? Playing opposite Sweat, but with nose tackle Andrew Billings returning from injury, the team believing that defensive tackle Jervon Dexter is really improving, which he is. the line looks so much better for Dennis Allen with this guy who's got the size that he likes, and he also has history of getting to the passer, just not really good pass sack numbers last year. But as I talk a lot on this channel, it's not all about the sack numbers. This guy got after the quarterback endlessly last year, and I think he's going to fit in really, really well. And whether you're excited about this signing or not, it doesn't really matter because the Chicago Bears had to make a move in free agency, had to make kind of a splash move at defensive end because we released DeMarcus Walker. We had absolutely no defender on the depth chart who could step in as a legit starter, and I think that's what we have in Dayo. The guy's, remember, only 25 years old, and he's totally the kind of signing that makes sense for Chicago. I mean, sure, a lot of you would have preferred Khalil, but we already covered why that probably wasn't the right move. Khalil would have been done in one season. On top of that, the Bears are betting on long-term upside here. They're rolling the dice because if he does work out, if he is the player that Dennis Allen thinks that he is, we could be looking at a 2-contract player in Chicago. I'm going to learn how to say his name correctly, specifically moving forward. That's a tough name, but let's just hope we get there. And we're also looking at a bargain on an inflated rushing market, pass rushing market, because if you look at it, what just happened? Myles Garrett just eclipsed $40 million. We already thought Max Crosby was a crazy contract before that at over $30 million. Trey Hendrickson probably would have come in about the same amount as well between those two contracts. Plus, Chicago would have had to give up really valuable draft capital to bring him to town. I think this also, the nice part of this move is that, sure, it's a splash, but it's not such a big splash that it prevents GM Ryan Poles from selecting a pass rusher in the 2025 NFL draft. In fact, if the right player drops, if the right player is there, also, we've added Grady Jarrett at defensive tackle. I'm going to do a story on him right after this, so stay tuned to my channel. It's a fun night. We can just take the best player available. We can take the best tackle that drops. We can take the best defensive end that drops. We can just swing for the fences and get Ashton Genty. There are just so many things that are opened up by these signings. And if you think about it, a blend of Dayo, Montez Sweat, and a first-round pass rush specialist, that would really give Chicago its best trio at edges that we've seen in years. You've also got a rapidly developing Austin Booker. I hope he's put on some bulk in the offseason because that was really his issue. He didn't have quite enough in the caboose to compete constantly in the NFL game, but he showed some flashes. We're just in a really good spot here, and I love that we're layering these specialists. We're layering pass rush. We're layering guys beyond the starters, and especially if Andrew Billings is healthy, we're really trenched up. And, if you look at Philly, just won the Super Bowl. They had guys that were 8 deep on the defensive line that could rush the passer, that were tough against the run. We're really deepening this team, and I like what I see. We've got to only 40 sacks last year. Sweat led the team with 5.5. Not good enough. Lacked a starter outside of Sweat. Released DeMarcus Walker. And while we're going to pay Odeyingbo basically double that we were going to pay Walker, there's reason to believe he's going to be worth it. I think it's going to be a big steal. And once again, you guys tell me what you think in the comments. Do you like this move? Do you not like it? And why? And we'll chop it up there. See ya.